The Ricoh GR3 has become an increasingly popular camera among street photographers in recent years. The combination of having a 24 megapixel APS-C sized sensor inside of a camera body which fits in your shirt pocket is an attractive proposition for any street photographer. So I picked up this Ricoh GR IIIx and have been using it pretty much every day for the last month. So in today's video, I'm going to share my early thoughts on using this camera. At the end of the episode, I'll also share a selection of images I took with this Ricoh, so you can see what type of photos you can take with this camera. I had long been on the lookout for a camera which I could carry on me at all times. Whether I was going into town for a walk, hanging out with some friends, or going for a dinner, I wanted a camera which was small enough to fit in my pocket without compromising on quality. There isn't many cameras which fit this category. Fujifilm used to make the X10 and X70, however, both have seemingly been discontinued without any news of an update on the horizon. Naturally, as a long-term Fujifilm user, I was drawn to the X100V. However, this camera wasn't really designed as a camera to fit in a pocket, and secondly, it's not actually that much smaller than my X Pro 2, especially when it has a smaller prime lens on the front. This is where the Ricoh GR3 caught my attention. This camera houses a 26 megapixel APS-C size sensor, and the image quality is pretty close to what I'm getting with my Fujifilms, and it all fits inside this tiny body which I can fit in any pocket. There are two versions of this Ricoh GR3. The original with an 18mm focal length, and this one, the Ricoh GR IIIx, with its 26mm focal length. The focal length is pretty much the only difference between the two models, so it comes down to personal preference when deciding between the two. The 18mm version will be better for architecture, taking photos indoors or in narrow streets like in marketplaces, whereas the 26mm Ricoh GR IIIx is better at isolating subjects and details while still being wide enough to capture your surroundings and some architecture too. Since I enjoy shooting at 23mm and 35mm on my Fujifilm cameras, the 26mm Ricoh GR IIIx was the natural option for me. On a quick side note, if you do like the look of the photos in this episode, they were all edited using my preset pack, which is currently on sale, and also help support this channel. If you're interested, I have a link down below in the description. Also, if you can hit that thumbs up button, it makes a massive difference to the channel, and if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe. Now, I picked up this camera about a month ago. I've used it every single day since, and I've really enjoyed using it, and there's a couple of reasons why. Firstly, it's tiny and it fits in my pocket. It can even fit in my shirt pocket. Like, it's that small, it's that light. It's the kind of camera where I can bring it absolutely anywhere. If I'm going for a dinner with friends, or if I'm going into town just to walk around and I'm not sure if I'm gonna take some photos, I'm not going in to take photos, but with this in my pocket, if I come across anything interesting, I can quickly capture it. The best thing about this is the sensor inside is really good. So this has a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor inside, and that's pretty much on par with the X-T4, X Pro 2, and most Fujifilm cameras. And the image quality I've been getting out of it, again, has been really impressive. Furthermore, this camera is really easy to use. You can pretty much operate it all with one hand. The power button's in a good place, the shutter button feels good. Feels light in the hand without feeling flimsy. Moving the dials, again, no issues there. The buttons at the back are a bit small, but to be honest, once you have this camera set up, you don't really have to worry about changing settings at the back or anything. For example, I've set this camera up in the same way I set up my Fujifilm camera, where the max ISO is 3200, minimum shutter speed is 120th of a second, and I use it in aperture priority mode. Now I should note that's for daytimes when I'm doing street photography, but I just set the camera up like that, and I just head out to shoot. I don't really worry about the settings. I just point this camera at what I want to capture and I hit the shutter button. Another place where this camera will come in useful is when walking around parts of town where you don't want to be seen with an expensive large camera, or if I'm traveling to parts of the world where, again, I don't want to be seen with expensive large camera gear on me. I can just turn up with this small Ricoh GR and take really high quality images with a camera that looks like a point and shoot. So these days, if I'm taking a walk into town, going grocery shopping or meeting some friends, the Ricoh GR III is always on me. Most importantly, it means I'm able to take photos at any time, and as a street photographer, I feel like I'm always ready to shoot. That said, it's not perfect, and when you have a camera this small, there's always going to be a compromise. Firstly, the battery life on this camera isn't great. After shooting for about 3 or 4 hours, I'm usually running low, and if you want to use this camera all day, you're going to want to bring at least 1, if not 2 extra batteries. Secondly, this camera is not weather sealed, so I have to be careful when it comes to bringing it out when it's raining. I've also read that some users have an issue with dust getting into the sensor. It's not something I've come across yet, and to be honest, it's not something that really worries me. The likelihood that dust is going to ruin your image is really low, and if it does get really bad, you can send your camera off to Ricoh to get the sensor cleaned. So I don't keep this camera in a case, it stays in my pocket. I do have a cap for the lens on the front, but that's about it. Another thing I find slightly annoying is that there's no flip out screen at the back. Now when you're shooting from down low or if you're shooting from up high, it's really helpful to have an articulating screen. Unfortunately on the Ricoh that's not the case. There's just a flat screen at the back, and when it's sunny it can actually get pretty difficult to see. I was looking for a camera which I could carry on me at all times and capture those random moments and scenes I came across throughout the day, while at the same time not compromising on quality. And in the Ricoh GR IIIx, I feel like I found the right match. To wrap up this episode, I'm going to leave you with a selection of sample images taken with the GR IIIx here in London.